Okay, so this is the Sandore Perfetta machine, encrusting, enrobing, and depositor for artisan bakers. So I want to walk you through today what this touch panel does and some of the features on it. First off, if you want to find recipes, you want to hit the book. You can scroll through here to see what recipes are saved, and at any point in time, you can pick one to load. So if I want to load the Grisby, I would select it, hit load, and we'll notice Grisby is here. If we want to create a new recipe, as we're going to walk through today, pick one without a name that isn't being used. Again, hit load and exit, and you'll see we're now in recipe 4. So the recipe itself will save the percent speed for extrusion and filling. And again, if we hit the right button, the percent speed of your knife, a knife timer, as well as the belt speed and belt start delay. Whether it's a step belt or a continuous belt. And then of course the last setting that it would save would be in production. You can specify how many cycles to go through until it stops. So we'll go through each one of these and sort of take a look at each. So with extrusion, any way you want to change that, you can hit up and down to make incremental changes, or hit the number and then enter what you want. Typically, as a starting point, I would suggest maybe 70% for extrusion speed. Now, extrusion counts for this right-hand tank is considered the main one for a dough. If you were to have a filling, typically that would reference then the left-hand tank here. And on this machine, we actually have a lobe pump installed here to assist the filling to flow through. So if we're producing a product without a filling, we would leave this at 0. And those screws wouldn't engage. If we are, we would put a percent in here as well for that extrusion speed. Now, extrusion speed will actually dictate how much product comes through. That is one of the settings that you can adjust to get the right weight of your product, as well as the ratio of that to the filling speed will give you a bit of a sense of the weight of your filling. You will have to play with that a little bit. Every product and every filling is different. Next here is knife. We want to leave knife speed at 100% by default. There are only a very few products that will struggle with the knife closing very quickly. An example of that would be arancini. The typical symptom would be it's closing so fast, it's sort of pulling and not allowing the top to close correctly, so you have inconsistent piece size. Now, the knife timer, this is how long you want the knife to wait and not engage between each piece. So if I were to hit 2 seconds, the knife after closing will wait 2 seconds before again closing again. So this is one of the factors that you have to be able to increase the weight of your individual product. Over here is belt speed. So that is the speed of this belt here. Okay, so this number is one that you will have to work with in tandem with the timer delay. If you were to have a timer here where the knife is not moving, the machine will still be extruding product down and this belt will still be running. To show you an example of that, if we have timer at 2 seconds and our belt speed is sitting at, let's say, 100%, you will see very quickly that between each cut, your product would have run off onto the ground. So those two features do need to be balanced. If you have your knife timer at 0, there is no problem having your belt speed at 100%. So between each cut, it's just going to move incrementally a little further down. Your belt start delay, it's not used for most products. In fact, it can be a little more confusing. So as a starter, we would recommend just leaving this at 0. And if you encounter a product that requires this, feel free to reach out. So belt step versus belt continuous. Belt continuous means that the belt is always running. It never stops. So if we were to run this right now, even when the knife is moving, this belt is running. For most products, this is not a good feature. Okay, for belt step, when we run this, the belt will stop during the cutting motion of your device. So that belt Continuous is used for some long products, maybe grissini or baguette, or when you have an attachment for gnocchi, but almost always you're going to have it at belt step. Okay. And then finally, if we go into here, this is where you can get an estimate of how much your product is making. But right now, let's say we have 0 cycles to stop. This feature is turned off. If this is turned on and we had selected 50, after creating 50 pieces, the machine will stop. You want to do this because this tank holds about 5 kilograms of product, maybe 6. It's going to depend on your product. You've got about a half a kilo to 3/4 of a kilo in here, sometimes up to 1. Again, it depends on their product. If you were to let this whole thing drain, you're going to notice some of the pieces coming out inconsistent, small, and you're going to have a lot of product waste coming off of this belt. So ideally, you want to refill this machine once it's starting to get to a low level. So based on your piece size, let's say you're making 120 grams, and we were to be running the machine, if we get out of here, this data will now make an estimate. We would be producing 518 kilograms an hour. And you get a sense then of how quickly you could end up going through 6 kilos of product if you were making 120 grams per piece. So knowing that, you could come in here and say, you know what, maybe after 30 pieces, it reaches the number of cycles. It's going to stop the machine for you while you still have product in here. You would lift this up. You would add more dough in here. You simply close this here. Reset the tank safety lid. And you should be ready to start again. And that way, again, you don't have a bunch of product coming out in an incorrect configuration. So every recipe gives you that option to come in here and specify how many pieces before stopping the machine to allow the user to refill it. Because every product has a different weight and a different dough. It would be unique for each recipe. We'll turn this feature off for right now. If you're in here and you can see that we produced 3.8 kilos, it's a nice way to track how much of your product has been produced or of a particular product. If you want to reset this data, simply hold this button down for 3 seconds and it will restart back to 0. In your settings, you have a choice of language. So right now we've got this on English. It does have information about the product itself, the factory might need to know. And that's pretty much all the settings that you need access to. Now, one of the things here is when you run the machine, you will notice that the cutter here moves up and down. Okay, and here you can see that if you're cutting, you're actually going to press your product down almost in a patty-like shape. If you want to avoid that, you can turn this dial here and you can bring down the belt. You can see the belt is lowering and the gap is increasing. So depending on the weight of your product, you can see there's no way that would create a patty. Depending on the weight of your product, you want to then minimize the total drop height. Do you want to create a patty or not? What's coming down? You do have a manual adjustment here to change the height of this belt. Okay, a couple more features here on this Sandore machine. This hose change, okay, if you were to hit this, what's going to happen here is the knife is actually going to lower down. This allows you to take the cover off and be able to change the nozzle. So this is a translation error is what I would call. This is more like the nozzle change. Okay, the actual size of the nozzle is one of those things that controls your product shape as well as allows variance in product size itself. If you are to take this tank off, which we will show you here briefly. Okay, with that hose change button engaged, you do have better access here to come in and take off the nozzles. you will notice the error code, lid knife open. What that's referring to is the cover, the safety cover, going over top of here so that there is no hand injury in any mechanical moving part. If I were to try to reset this to be able to activate the machine, I cannot until this is put back. After putting that back on, you can hit the reset button and it will clear. I can then stop the hose change and the knife comes back up.